people so far. Dr. Talal mentioned in the comments what is your full name. If there's anyone without their full name in the chat, such as Zoom user, if you have anyone by the name iPhone, just state your full name or just change your participant's name so we can actually see who is participating. Yes. Okay.
We will put a link so that you can sign in, please, because we need to have your data. You know, we make statistics as to the age groups, gender, what kind of job do you have, which institution are you involved in, and so on. So please, when Narmeen puts the link, try to register there. Okay, Narmeen, can you please introduce our guests, our speakers?
Who I'm going to be speaking today, because our guests unfortunately apologized. They had a meeting last minute, so I'm going to be covering today's topic.
Okay. So the topic today is about Baalbek, because the German Protestant Institute in Lebanon did something similar to our project. So we thought it would be interesting for you to see what they have done. Okay.
Yes. Okay, so we can begin. We have 26 participants and everyone is welcome to join. The presentation is quite simple. I'm going to be showing you some examples from Baalbek. I'm going to showcase some videos, but it's always important to look at things from a critical lens, okay? So we can not only see what has been done, but also learn from it and see how we can improve upon it, especially if you're considering designing your own applications, and especially for Petra and the iHeritage project. So today's topic, I'm going to discuss virtual tours in reconstructed historical cities, and we're going to talk about the case of Baalbek Reborn, which is the application mentioned. All right. So let's take a look at Baalbek Reborn, which is the name of the software. So it takes you on a virtual tour in the Roman temples in Baalbek in Lebanon. It's a UNESCO World Heritage Site in Lebanon. So according to the website itself, the highlights of it includes a guided tour. So there are experts who are giving you an entire tour throughout the site itself. It mentions that it has 35 stops. Actually, in the application, it has 37. And it allows you to travel in time to 215 AD and see Baalbek restored. Of course, there's an expert commentary. So you listen to it as you view the reconstruction, the virtual reconstruction, and you view the site itself on certain stops and certain monuments. It has some elements, and we're going to look at those together. But of course, as I mentioned, we're going to look at it through a critical lens. Okay. And eventually, at the end of the session, we're going to have a small, if there's a possibility to have a breakout room, and we're going to have a small SWOT analysis together to see how we can improve such an experience to provide something even better for Petra. So this project was presented by the Lebanese Ministry of Culture in collaboration with the German Archaeological Institute and Flyover Zone, which is the development company that made this software. Okay. So first, let's consider some elements. Let's think of some elements before we enter and view the application itself. So you keep these in mind as you see the snippets and the videos that I'm going to present, so we can actually have a good discussion at the end. So when you design such an experience for a virtual tour, let's say, for an archaeological site and such an important site, let's say, so you need to consider interaction. First of all, consider interaction. How can you interact with the content, and can you even interact with it? What does that mean? So are you interacting with a certain panel, let's say? Are you interacting with the 3D models? Are you interacting with certain characters that are inhabiting the space? Are you, how are you doing that interaction? Are you moving with your keyboard? Are you moving with the virtual headset? Are you interacting through the touch screen? Are you interacting through controllers? So there are multiple aspects that you need to consider when you are designing or experiencing this sort of tour, let's say. Second of all is the player and user movement. So is it stationary or can the user move? So some examples, they allow you to move through the reconstructed model. You can walk around, you can see it from multiple sides. It gives you this freedom to explore as you walk around. Okay, some experiences you just sit and you just watch or listen. And you're gonna see the case of Baalbek, it's mostly stationary. Okay, so one good example I'm gonna give you just to look at it. It's an example from Assassin's Creed Brotherhood. This allows you to explore Rome of 1499 with brilliantly detailed settings. So the player, throughout the game itself, it's one of the most historically accurate Assassin's Creed games that have been done, as you can see in the videos above, the reconstruction that's being done. So as the person moves, it gives you the name of the monument that you're about to enter. And the player walks around. Of course, it has its own storyline, it has its own quests, its own objectives, but the context that is being reconstructed, you're experiencing it with the people living in it. So you can see the characters moving around. You can actually interact with them. They're going about their day, and you can see how people used to live in that certain era. So you can see here the architectural reconstruction over here of the restoration is actually quite fascinating, and it's very well done. So here, as the character, as you see in the video, enters the site, it's a whole new experience that you can basically explore it in every angle as freely as you want. So that is one way to think of when we talk about interaction with the content. What kind of content? What are you viewing? Here you can see it in nighttime, daytime, and the people are living. So it's a living experience, all right? And of course, the player-user movement. This experience here is dynamic. The user can move, he can explore and walk around. And this is one way to create such a tour, actually, but throughout a game. So this takes us to the third point that you need to take into consideration when we talk about such experiences. So the content itself. The content, especially in archaeological sites and such projects that have historical significance, especially when they're presenting reconstruction examples, it needs to be well-researched and developed in a multidisciplinary team of experts. So it does not work when only, let's say, a game designer does it or an architect alone. You need a team of experts that each know their fields, and they can integrate all this knowledge together to create a full experience. So you have the historians, the archaeologists, the architects, the tour guides, the user experience, and the user interface designers. You have the developers and so forth. These all come together to create such a full experience. Otherwise, the experience would be, let's say, more significant on the informative side, but would be lacking from the user experience side, and so forth. So there should be a balance in this. Content is very important. As for the objectives, of course, you need to consider why are we doing this, okay? And who is your target group? So does the experience target tourists, locals, students, experts, and which age groups are we tackling here? Who is it being designed for? Children so they can study from it, learn from it? Is it being designed for a wide audience that can benefit and entertain from this experience? So this needs to, you need to consider this as well. So if we're looking at the Baalbek case, is it mainly educational? Is it for tourism promotion? Is it for marketing purposes? Is it for entertainment? Does it mean to raise awareness towards some sort of reconstruction efforts, some historical significance? So there has to be a purpose behind it. And these play an important role in the creation of such an experience. And it might not be not only be one objective, it can be more than one. So there should be a balance between those. And of course, accessibility. So I told you before that this Flyover Zone company, the developer of the Baalbek, they made this tour, but they also made a couple of other tours. So they have one in Egypt under construction, they have one in Rome, they have multiple projects, and Baalbek one is the only free one because it was done in collaboration and it was already paid for. So it's provided for free and anyone can install it. And moreover, so what devices are you designing for? How are the users going to experience this virtual tour? Which level of immersiveness are you willing or do you want to achieve? Do you want the user to be completely immersed through a virtual environment, which takes a lot of effort and computational load? So virtual reality head-mounted displays, you wear the glasses and you are completely immersed in a virtually reconstructed site. Or is it augmented reality? Do you go to the site physically and you see the reconstruction and the restoration efforts virtually overlaying the already existing site? Is it mobile augmented reality? Do you use your phone to view that? Do you use AR glasses? Is it mixed reality? Is there interaction between the virtual and the physical? Is it for desktop? Is it for your computer? Is it for mobile devices? So all these, they need to be considered and well thought, because some of them may have limitations and may not allow you to provide a full experience across all the platforms. So these are the things that you need to consider, of course, and keep in mind while we look at the Baalbek example. So why did they choose virtual reality tools? And what are the advantages of creating such virtual reality historical tours across sites? So it's quite obvious that it allows you to visit and experience spaces and locations that are difficult or impossible to experience in the real world. In this case, you get to see Baalbek in historical times, more specifically 215 AD. So, however, in the cases of archaeological reconstruction, especially when we're dealing with heritage sites, the content should be as accurate as possible and based on a strong foundation and findings to portray the correct message, because it has to be well researched to present the right ideas. Okay, so let's talk about the Baalbek Reborn. Let's dive more into it, look at the experience, what the software offers, what you can actually see through it. We're going to look more toward the elements. I'm going to show you video snippets. This is the structure of this presentation. So you're going to watch the videos. I'm going to comment on them at the end, watch another video, comment on the end, and then we will reach a final conclusion together. So let's start with the first video. Once you open the application, it takes you to a small tutorial. Then it takes you to the beginning of the tour. Let me make sure that the sound is being shared. So share sound. Okay, so let's go. Once you open the application, you see this.
Welcome to Baalbek, ancient Heliopolis. In this application, we visit the city as it appeared around the year 215 of our era, which can be considered the peak of its ancient development. A bird's eye view gives us our first look at Baalbek and its hinterland. We are hovering above the fertile. We are looking at the sanctuary from the west. This means that we see it from the rear, looking not only in the direction of the rising sun, but also in the direction of one of the springs that are so important for Baalbek. Sun and water equal fertility, and that is what the cult of Jupiter from Heliopolis was.
Okay, so this is the beginning. This is how it starts. It takes you to an aerial view of Baalbek, and it just talks around. So if you noticed, we're going to look a little bit how you are actually interacting with this experience and what you are seeing. So you're hearing a person, an expert speaking, so there's commentary. You're viewing a 360 panorama, and that's it for now, okay? Let's look over here. So after you enter, you have this tablet or this panel. This is your only way of interaction, okay? So, and even trying to adjust it away from the screen is a little bit troublesome, but still, you try to adjust it, and then you go to the player and you click start the slider.
Temples in the entire Roman Empire. We have entered the city and now have arrived in its heart. Here in the center of Heliopolis.
So there are certain buttons that trigger the hypothetical reconstruction of the location that you are currently viewing. All right, so we saw the main interaction method. You had the slider that shows that plays the audio, and through which there are certain points that you can click to move to other views, actually the reconstructed view. And then you have a certain button here. Sometimes it's not available to show you the reconstruction itself. So let's look more at...
Have a look at the reconstruction. You can see that some of the capitals were gilded. This was done in honor of Emperor Caracalla, who was said to have visited Heliopolis in the year 215 of our era. We know that two men, presumably in the emperor's inner circle, commissioned the gilding. They immortalized themselves with inscriptions still preserved today on pedestals. In the medieval period, Crusaders for a time ruled the Lebanese coast. To protect against this threat, the Sanctuary of Jupiter was converted into a castle during that era, and its spatial organization was reversed.
All right. So as you can see, the main way of navigation throughout the certain points of interest around the site is this map that you see over here on this panel. So there are certain points that you click on and it takes you to a 360 view, and then you listen to the audio, and then you can see the reconstruction or the hypothetical restoration of that certain site. So that is mainly the entire experience. Let's look around some more. Sometimes the button doesn't, so you'd have to move the slider and fix that away, but you just need to. So exploring this slide over here, it shows an important aspect, okay? So in such an experience where you are providing the original, the current view of the site, and you are then overlaying it with the hypothetical reconstruction or restoration of the site, alignment is quite important. So you need to align the reconstructed against the current images. Because if you see here, you're looking towards the aisle, and in the original site, when it plays again, it has a completely different angle. So you'd have to rotate around to find what exactly is being changed. So alignment is also something that you need to take into consideration. Let's look at this video here.
And now we'll point out the features you can see from up here. We raise our gaze to look out over the city. Modern Baalbek, with its almost 100,000 inhabitants, stretches far.
Okay. So in some cases, as you see here in this view,
Far.
All right, let me just scroll back. There are certain elements that are placed on the view, the bird's eye view, or let's say the higher elevation view, and you cannot actually interact with it. So when the expert is talking, you have to look around, and it would be much better if there was some sort of way to orient yourself, or a navigation element, or just to maybe click on these to actually view what he's talking about. So these are things that you need to also consider. So why are there non-interactable elements? They're just used for annotation. So how do you orient yourself around this? This is also another idea. One of the things that are very well done over here, and you can see in the tablet here, the panel, they have also left and right arrows that help you navigate and show you extra details, let's say, of certain monuments, certain ornaments, certain artifacts. So you can see like the details are quite well done in this reconstruction over here. So this is also one thing that you can actually, it's a sort of an advantage, because it's quite well researched and well implemented. Let's look at this example, for example. So in this video, you can clearly see there is a wall here. And when you look at the hypothetical reconstruction, it completely disappears. So this confuses the user, let's say, because if it wasn't there, maybe it was built from a different era, let's say, or like different period of time. That's why they did not include it in the 2015. But there should be an explanation of why is it there and why is it gone now. So this relates back to the content and the accuracy, because it's quite important, especially when you're trying to provide such a hypothetical reconstruction and a historically accurate virtual experience. Let's look on another option that is provided. So this is a guided tour option. It's a 38-minute, let's say 39-minute tour. You just press play and it navigates you through all these sites. It takes you throughout a planned, let's say, route. and it tells you exactly what it takes you to certain points, which does not include the entire 37 points, but it gives you a narrated explanation of what is going on. So this gives the user a choice. You can either go ahead and click on the 37 points and explore by yourself, or you can just click on the guided tour, and it just takes you for a 40-minute, let's say, tour where the experts explain and show you around the place. And the guided tour also has languages, so you have different languages. This is the Arabic one. So for example,
أهلا وسهلا في بعلبك أو بالأحرى في هليوبوليس كما كانت تسمى المدينة في العصر اليوناني والروماني.
So there is tremendous effort being put here because the reconstruction itself, it takes lots of work and lots of research, but also the translation and also the way that you move from point to point, and they translated everything to 4 languages, recorded the audio guides in 4 languages. So that is a lot of effort to do. The main commentary is basically on the interaction method and why is it static. So I will show you again in the reviews here. If you go, you look around. So if you see the reviews of the people who downloaded and actually experienced this application fully, so they mentioned, start with, this is a good tool. It helps you to learn about archaeological sites and about the history from an educational standpoint. So you can see it succeeded on the educational objective. But as for the entertainment objective, let's see, however, I was expecting it to be in full interactive 3D if it supports VR. This is just a bunch of panorama spheres you're plopped into. So it actually ends with, it's not a VR application. And that is a point that we need to take into consideration. So the interaction itself, it is quite static. There is not much going on. So you just go into certain points of views and you look around the spheres, that's still images. And that's basically it. The strength point of the application is in the audio guide. The strength point is in the information that's being presented. But unfortunately, it's not dynamic enough. There's no interaction whatsoever except with the panel itself. So how do we address that? How do we tackle such a thing? So there's a bunch of good reviews and bad reviews, but they all agree into one point. They're all just flat 360 photos. They're just panoramas and screenshots. But one good point, recommendation, actually mentioned that although it's a very informative, highly informative tool, the reconstruction visuals are really, really good and give a sense of dimension and so forth. It also said that it can be improved. It was sadly dragged down by other aspects that we mentioned. So these are the 360 images that are often difficult to discover what the narrator is talking about. All right, so when he talks about a certain element, it's not highlighted. You don't know what he's talking about. You just see this 360 image, and you have to figure out yourself, where is he talking? Is it to my left? Is it to the front? Is it to the back? Is it this column? Is it the next one? Is it this room? So it's difficult. One way to improve it is highlighting the main object that is being talked about. That's one. 2, we talked about this together. So when you're overlooking the city itself, you need a way to orient yourself, so a compass or something that helps you orient where you are actually looking now. And of course, the lack of ability to move in the model with your controller or teleport. This is a very, very large limitation because the 3D model is there. It's already reconstructed. It would have been a much nicer experience, especially in virtual reality, where you are allowing the user to immerse themselves. It's better to have it in 3D and not in 2D still images or panoramas. The user needs to move. They need to walk around and see from different angles. They need to have this autonomy. They choose they want to see and from which angle they want to see it. And that is unfortunately a missed opportunity in this example. So you can't even navigate or teleport. You just look at the images that they give you. And so these are good points that they were mentioned. So the team was obviously under a lot of pressure. It shows in the finish, and some camera reconstruction portions are placed too close, too low for the height differences and so forth. So some angles are not quite correct, the alignment as we mentioned and so forth. So these are things that you take into consideration, but this takes me to another point. So this is not a VR application, it says. But it is. It works on a VR application. Why is it not a VR application? I'm going to give you an example and you tell me. This is Google Street View. Okay? It's available for everyone. You go to Google Maps, you drag the little yellow person, and you go to Baalbek. Except here, you can actually move around. And if I put this on a VR experience, is it a virtual reality experience? Yeah, it is. But it's less limited. It allows you to walk. It allows you to look around from different angles. So what's the difference? The main effort that was put in Baalbek was in the reconstruction, one, and it was on the historians and archaeologists' parts, the tour guides. These guys, they took a lot of the load and they put all the information, but the problem here was with the UI, with the user interface and the user experience design. So if that actually was given more time, let's say, to further develop, it could have developed a completely different experience and wouldn't have dragged all this effort a little bit down, because the reconstruction and restoration 3D modeling and the effects and the effort that's put in that is really good. So let's look at the summary. All right. So we have Baalbek Reborn. We have the only way of interaction is through this panel. So, okay, so you can only interact with the application. You cannot click on the objects. You cannot click on the reconstruction. Nothing is moving. It's just still images. You interact through the panel. There's a slider that is similar to a media player. It allows you to explore the reconstructed images. So the hypothetical reconstruction, and you can move through the audio guide and view the city as it goes back in time, let's say. And you navigate through points of interest on this map, which is okay, all right? And the content is presented in 360 panoramas. You have the images. You can look around the mode of interaction. And if you're wearing headsets, like VR headsets, you look around, you move your head, and you use your controllers to click on the panel. If you're using your computer, you use your mouse to move around, and you scroll your mouse to zoom. If you're using your phone, it's basically the same thing. You move the phone around, you pinch to zoom, and you click on the panel. So the only way of interacting with this entire experience is with this small little panel, which has some small images. So although the narration is informative and it's very well constructed, the modeling and virtual reconstruction efforts are very good. There are evident limitations that affect the overall experience. So the user, they listen to the audio guide and view the still images. The elements discussed are not highlighted, and at times it can get confusing to the user with no indication of orientation. They don't know what the person is talking about. The additional images in the tablet panel over here, they are small, all right, and they cannot be expanded. And the experience also can get tiring, and unfortunately, after trying to explore 37 points in the same manner of only 360 images, it can unfortunately get boring for the users. So this is what we're going to discuss today. So you've seen this example. It's well executed in terms of the research, in terms of the finding and the reconstruction, but the design itself and the mode of interaction, that is lacking. So it's time for your input. We're going to have a small SWOT analysis. So how can we learn from this example, and how can we advance this and push this to a better experience, especially if we are considering something like this for Petra, or if you're even considering creating your tours of your own trails, your own audio guides. How do we make this better? So if I may suggest that we can be split into two groups, okay? A group discusses strengths and weaknesses, and a group discusses threats and opportunities. And from that, we can then gather back here, and we can actually talk about, each group can present their strength points, weakness points, threats, and opportunities of such an experience, and how can we actually enhance this. Can we do this? Let me know if Lina or anyone can split us into.
مرحبا نرمين.
Yes.
بدك تو رومز؟
يا ريت.
طيب ثواني بعد إذنك.
Yeah. So until Lina prepares the breakout rooms where we can discuss group strengths and weaknesses, group is threats and opportunities. You can also view this experience. You can install this experience. As I said, it's free. So you can look around, explore it, and see how you personally feel about this and how you personally would develop this further. So هبعت لكم اللينك إذا بدكم. You can go through it and install it as you wish. So for now, let's see until the rooms are ready.
Nermeen, how much time you are allocating for us, please?
How about 10 minutes? Is it good?
No, 15, Nermeen. But let me first, before we break up, I want to ask if you, أولاً, Mr. Anas Hizan, can you tell us about yourself? Sayyid Hizan. Are you listening to us? You need to remove the micro, to turn on your microphone. على اليسار تحت. طيب إسلام رمامنة، ممكن تحكي لنا عن نفسك أو نفسك؟ عماد دوت اس.
أنا عماد شناع، وزارة تخطيط التعاون الدولي.
يا ميت هلا عطوفتك.
تعرفني سيدي.
I just wanted to make sure لأنه بنحب نسجل الأسماء كاملة. thank you very much. هنا هي هنا أبو الوفا ولا somebody else؟ مس هنا مش عارف ليش ما بيحبوا يجاوبوا.
مساء الخير.
مساء النور. هلا.
أنا هنا الرمامنة.
هنا إيش؟ Can you write the full name please حتى نسجله؟
هنا الرمامنة.
في إسلام رمامنة كمان. مش هيك؟
أختي.
Okay, that's good. سجلته بالجوجل فورم عشان بنحب يعني
الفورم
عفوا
بالفورم سجلنا.
good. من أي مؤسسة أنتو؟
نحن من جامعة البلقاء.
طلاب اوكي.
طلاب جرافيك ديزاين.
good. excellent. فإذا أنت وأختك بالجرافيك ديزاين؟
بالضبط.
اوكي. هي سجلت كمان؟
مسجلين نحن تنتين.
اوكي ثانك يو. حفصة علي سجلتي بليز؟ مس حفصة علي. اوكي. أنس هيزاني برضه مش حيرد؟
الو مرحبا.
اهلا يا هلا فيك.
سوري بس ما كنت بقدر احكي، كان حوالي ضجة وكذا.
اهلين.
انا بدرس ماستر Architectural Conservation بالجامعة الألمانية.
اوكي جريت.
شكرا.
سجلت والله؟
I think انه انا سجلت اكثر من مرة بالفورم بس
It's alright. انا بتأكد.
يس اذا بعتني ايميل برجع بتأكد منه، ما في مشكلة.
ثانك يو. اوكي. اذا خلينا ننقل. ليلى قلتي لي انك من اليرموك. Are you a student؟
نعم.
You're a student. اوكي. دخلك ماريا. انت كتبتي لي انها من سلة is an NGO in Petra. حد علمك بتعرفي عن سلة أكثر؟ لأنه ماريا رونزا تركتنا، فكنت حابب أسألها عن سلة حتى نسجل، يعني يكون عندنا اهتمام خاص إذا كانت على أي حال. أوكي خلينا
دكتور
هلا.
هم NGO بيعملوا دورات بتخص ترميم الآثار يعني بمقابل مادي.
بالبتراء؟
في البتراء بالبتراء.
نعم. أوكي. أنا هيك بعرف بس حبيت أتأكد أوكي
المفروض
يلا.
هلا في رومز انفتحت، يعني أنا لينا عم بحاول
أوكي now let us move to the rooms please. اطلعي من الشاشة نرمين.
يلا. And I'm trying to open the rooms.
لا فتحت الرومز خلاص مفتوحة ومتاحة، اللي بده يختار غرفة واحد أو اثنين.
اوكي، في عنا روم ال strengths and weaknesses، في روم ال threats and opportunities. select.
نرمين خليهم على روم 1 وروم 2 لأنه ما سميتهمش أنا بعد إذنك.
هو ايش طالع عندهم الجماعة اصلا؟ طالع عندكم الرومز؟
مفروض
يس طالعين عنا،
بينت التسمية.
هلا بس توضيح strengths and weaknesses of what
اللي
عرضتيه ولا
الاكزامبل هذا، واحنا شو بنقدر نطور عليه، يعني consider such an
لا
example.
ما هو يا اما بتحكي عن البتراء يا بتحكي عن بعلبك، لانه ممكن يصير في تناقض بنفس الموضوع.
اوكي زي
يعني
خلينا في الاكزامبل تبعنا اللي شرحناه.
اوكي طيب.
اوكي then the discussion we can talk how to apply this to Petra. فيلا feel free to enter.
في تحت عندكم تحت في بريك اوت رومز، اكبسوا عليها ونقوا يا غرفة واحد يا غرفة اثنين.
ما بعرف إذا الجماعة لسه دخلوا معنا جماعة الفرات.
مع الدكتور طلال روم ال opportunities and threats and opportunities. احنا معاكم نرمين.
يلا أهلا وسهلا. طيب إذا كل حدا رجع أظن ال breakout rooms they will close هلا أصلا in 20 seconds. فأظن إذا في ضل حدا ما رجعش كله راح يرجع هلا in a few seconds. كيف كان النقاش تبعكم؟ Group of threats and opportunities, how was your discussion?
Tamer, go ahead.
Hello. Yes, we discussed several things. I'm just opening my notes. 1 second. Okay. We said that from the weaknesses we see that there's no mention of the intangible cultural heritage, and there is no tackle for these subjects within the interactive experience. We said that it could be much. It could give you a better experience if there is gamification and more interaction within the application, and also to include intangible cultural heritage within the interactions, the reconstruction and the recontext to show how people were interacting and living at that time. The immersive reality is missing basically the interactivity and needs a lot. We know that this would require a lot of time and effort and resources, but this is something that is lacking in the experience. It's very static. It lacks the interconnectedness. Reconstruction was very the reconstruction, the effect that they did is beautiful, the before and after, but it does not expand after the 215. After we would love to see what happened after that by archaeologists and restorations, updates of the story to continue to be created. They can do much more than sticking to that time. We mentioned talking about to include updates about the updates that happened after that time, and to orient to that. And we also said that as Nermeen mentioned, that most of the images are 2D images that were put onto a spherical environment, which is basically a static image of 360 image, which is not enough, and it could become boring if you just leave it without much interactivity and more information, more than just the archaeological site. And I mentioned also that I'm not sure if it's interactive across all medium, not just to stick to being a web application.
Okay, هذول النوتس هذول شيء.
I think these are the notes. I'm not sure, Doctor, did I miss anything?
No, they are very good notes. I think we had a very في يعني تداخل بين برضو ملاحظات الجروب تبعون ال strengths and weaknesses as well with your group.
Yeah, and personally, I think the most important part is it's boring. You need to make it interactive. You need to add gamification, because this generation you get bored easily if you just show them a couple of images that are just spherical environments.
يب أنا 100% معك. هلا كان عندنا لايف example مثلا one of the participants her son was sitting next to her and he saw it but he got bored at some point. He was like بعدين let me tell you the points that we discussed over here. So as for the strengths, فعنا expert commentary, the tour guide is actually speaking and giving you all the information. That is actually good. It is very informative. فنشوف إنه there was a lot of weight put على ناحية historical aspects and information that's being provided, which is very good. برضو it covers a wide area, so space واسعة. That is also one of the strengths. Also, it has lots of details. The details that are made for the reconstruction are quite nice. And at some point, they also discuss certain architectural aspects, not much, but there is specific details that are being focused on. Well, you can see it also in the restoration, the hypothetical restoration. You can see the beams, you can see the columns, الأشياء المذهبة, the ornaments themselves, and so forth. That is also a strength. And one of the strengths that were mentioned بالآخر هي accessibility. إنه it's free and it's provided إنه خفيف البرنامج صح. هو يعني هلا بنحكي على weaknesses بس إنه بتقدر تنزله على الموبايل على الكمبيوتر على it's provided for multiple devices and it's because it's not that heavy ما فيه كتير ما فيه interaction ما فيه 3D models ما فيه it's just 360 images. It's quite light and accessible to everyone, let's say. هلا yes it is accessible بس is it entertaining enough for does it tackle a wide audience? لو حدا صغير بالعمر أو حدا let's say مراهق opens it I could guarantee basically بعد 5 points خلص بيزهقوا بسكروا. that takes us to the weaknesses. The experience is static. تحسها still كلمات participants still فيها جمود. It's solid and it's not alive. Okay. هلا living aspect can be added إحنا لما نحط characters تشوفهم actually practicing their everyday lives. لابسين اللبس التقليدي تبعهم. They're walking around. اللي رايح على المعبد اللي رايح ما بعرف يساوي اللي نازل على السوق. You can experience that. حتى if you were a character you could walk around تلحق مثلا واحد يشوف شو عم بيسوي. That gives it life. That is lacking and that is a weakness in this experience. Lack of interaction is a very evident weakness. So you cannot interact with the buildings, you cannot interact with the elements, nothing is highlighted, which takes us to the second point with nothing is highlighted. إحدى النقاط اللي ذكرت من قبل نيفين I think is that distinction between what is old and what is new when you restore it. So what was reconstructed and so forth. هلا هاي fully restored, fully reconstructed. بس you have to go back and forth عشان نشوف okay كيف هلا وضعه وكيف كان, how was it and how is it now. This going back and forth and sometimes the image does not align. I think this could also offer an opportunity for augmented reality. إنه إحنا لو عاملين الconstruction هاد okay just go to the site and overlay this virtual reconstructed 3D model على الواقع. You can actually see it. حتى لو كان في certain opacity or transparency you can see what's different, what actually changed. This is a weakness but also opens a room for opportunity. Also the information مثلا الجدار اللي اختفى فجأة ورجتكم إياه. This is some sort of missing information. This is a weakness because okay there's a lot of effort in the information but any inaccuracy it can cause some damage to the entire experience. يعني خاصة إذا كان it's supposed to provide كل شيء as accurately as possible ومدروس وريسيرش. في حيطة اختفت وين راحت الحيطة يا جماعة. وأهم شيء كمان في عنا motivation levels. Are you motivated enough to go through the entire experience? Are you motivated to sit for 40 minutes listening to the guide أو exploring 37 points? At the beginning maybe, بس بعدين when it continues at the same pace in the same method, no interaction, you just listen to someone talking and there's just this slider that you take around, it's not motivating enough. فهذا أخذنا بنقطة ثانية برضو one of the participants mentioned. ابنها حكى لها إنه بدي إشي أحس إنه I achieved something, points, achievement, anything that tracks my progress. أحس إنه أنا I'm doing something. يكون في levels. This opens the door to gamification basically, which we both agreed on. This is an opportunity as well. It's a weakness, but it opens an opportunity that if this was gamified, if there were certain quests or you were going to do something and certain levels that ended, and you had this sense of achievement or a higher purpose that, okay, I'm exploring and I'm learning and I'm having fun doing it, this could completely change this entire experience. It could benefit from gamification. And بالنسبة لنا, yes, برضو قلنا إحنا لو if you want to develop something, let's say as complicated as Assassin's Creed اللي ورجتكم إياه بالقبل, the 3D models of characters walking around and living their lives, and you can walk into the buildings and interact with literally everything that you have. It requires lots of resources. فإحنا عم نحكي عن millions, not billion, yes, it's millions of budget for creating such a game. مقارنة ما بعرف البادجت لهذا الابليكيشن. also يعني lack of resources and lack of budget, that's also a threat, let's say. This sums up, I think, our points. إذا أي حدا من الجروب عندي wants to add anything, you are more than welcome to add it. بس yes. what we take from this is there any comments, any other additions حابين نضيفها?
Yeah, thank you, Narmeen. It was a good talk.
Thank you.
And a good analysis. But I want to take some time, if you don't mind, anybody, you know, to talk about Petra.
Yes.
Yani, let's see what we think about Petra. Can you get out of the...
Thank you.
Yani, we will not go to break rooms. ولكن we will discuss from this forum, from this single room, things that are related to Petra. So please go ahead.
أكيد في comments يا جماعة، مش معقول ما في comments. I'm certain there are comments. After all this discussion and we talked about this, واحدة من الelements اللي إحنا حكيناها is the wide area that is being covered. طب إحنا لما نيجي نقارنها في Petra it's huge، صح؟ فهاي لحالها is a huge opportunity. That's one. إيش في عنا ممكن threats إحنا عنا if we want to present Petra in virtual reality, let's say. What are the strengths? مستحيل 27 شخص ما يطلعوا بstrength واحدة لبترا. Come on, guys.
One weakness is that there isn't enough written material found in Petra. يعني the most relevant issues are inscriptions. حتى يعني who did the monuments, who worked them, maybe we only know one place. Whereas, for example, Madain Saleh, every monument has its architect's name inscribed on the monument.
Okay.
So there is this weakness. Of course, archaeology discovers things, but it is said that there are so many layers under Petra, it will take years and years to uncover them. And of course, there is the danger of destroying the top to reveal the bottom. So this is my idea. Okay, let's see what others can say.
Maybe we can add for the threats managing conflicts في الموقع زي البترا. We have Petra National Trust, we have DOA, we have UNESCO because it's World Heritage Site. So there is different opinions, different ideas. So we need to collaborate these stakeholders.
Yes, that's on the idea of management. But we are talking about the creation of a digitized experience.
Yes,
so,
yes, Dr. Talal, it's the same.
How do you see that this conflict between, or this contradiction in opinions, and the fact that there are so many institutions all have a stake in the site, how does that affect the attempt to create a VR experience?
Yes, the effect will come from the different ideas, different limitations for each stakeholder. For example, okay, as archaeologists, we have our guide. The design must be etc. But for the UNESCO, for example, they maybe have different ideas, not in the same way.
Okay, so contradictions and conflict of opinion might affect this this project or this ideas.
يعني دكتور مثلا كون البتراء يعني هي موقع تراث عالمي، لنفرض انه احنا صممنا فيرتشوال تور للموقع وطلعت تمام بوجهة نظرنا، وهم اوريدي ستيك هولدرز للموقع، يعني افرض ممكن ما يعجبهم الشيء هذا، ممكن يحكي لك لا هذا الشيء مثلا نقصه كذا 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 ما بيزبط هيك. فانه يعني لازم يكون في كوبوريشن، يعني قبل ما يكون يعني نشتغل على موقع زي البتراء لازم يكون في كوبوريشن.
طبعا من هاي الناحية بتلاحظ انه نحن بنحاول نجتذب، وللأسف ما فيش دائما تجاوب. يعني بقول لك قديش حاولنا انه وزارة السياحة تبعث لنا بعض المهندسين لانه لهم علاقة بالموضوع. لحسن الحظ عندنا الاخت سامية والدكتورة نسرين معنا، يا ريت كانت معنا يا دكتورة يا سامية. يعني حقيقة لازم يكونوا موجودين لأنه رأيهم مهم جدا، وإحنا مش إحنا المهمين بالموضوع، أنتوا الحضور اللي لازم ينصحنا ويقول شو رأيه وليش وكيف. لحسن الحظ دائرة الآثار هي عضو مشارك في المشروع، وبالتالي عندنا دائما يعني زملائنا من دائرة الآثار مشاركين، بتأمل يضلوا يشاركوا معنا. تنشيط السياحة لحد الآن ما بعتوا حدا، مع أنه حاولنا عدة مرات، وأنا مش فاهم ليش. يعني أنا بعتبر أنه أي مؤسسة وطنية مسؤولة إلها علاقة بالبتراء وإلها علاقة بالسياحة واجبها أنها تساهم في هاي المشاريع، حتى لو كان المشروع هي مش بارتنر فيه، لكن واجبها انها تعطي رأيها وتقدم احسن ما عندها في الموضوع. فبرضه بأمل وواجبنا كلنا احنا الموجودين اننا ندعو ناس يسجلوا بالموقع ويضلوا يشاركونا ويعني يتواجدوا معنا وينصحونا. احنا بدنا اهم اشي النصيحة. نعم، سياحة ما هو سياحة مش موجودة هلا، ما عادت موجودة، مش هيك تامر؟ اوكي. على أي حال we would like people to express their opinion about what is the best thing for Petra. Please just tell us what you think, and Tamer will kindly write down the opinions that you come up with. Giovanni wants to say something.
Yeah, but not now. I am hearing it's very interesting. And,
okay, fine. Yeah, thank you.
For the moment.
Yeah, okay, thank you. Thank you for being with us. Okay.
Thank you for your effort to do this beautiful.
Okay.
I have a point.
أي شخص آخر بحب يحكي؟
I can add something and maybe
please
can open
go ahead Narmeen.
طيب when we look at a site such as Petra, I believe يعني معنا كتير ناس that are experts in these fields, archaeologists, tour guides and so forth. It has lots of opportunities. I am certain إنه كل حدا لو طلع بفكرة حيطلع بشيء عظيم. Let's consider مثلا this. Applying augmented reality to not only virtual reality tours. هلا في بعلبك they focused specifically on complete reconstruction and creating a virtual environment. هلا في بترا احنا the site is already beautiful. Okay, it's very strong. But there are ways that you can actually.
نقص بالك يا هام.
تامر.
Sorry.
Yes, but there are ways that you can actually approach this site in a storytelling manner. Let's say for augmented reality. It uses this method called reinforcing Okay, فأنت بتعتمد على قوة السايت and you add this tour, you walk around Petra and you reinforce it with this virtual reconstructions throughout AR. So you view ال reconstruction how was it أو تشوف characters عم بيمشوا معك في الساحة أو عم بيمشوا معك في السيق through augmented reality. That is one point that you can actually consider for creating such immersive tours, let's say.
We said this a lot of time, that a creation of characters that look like Nabateans. How simple is that? How complicated is that? Can we do it within the focus of the project? Because if you are going to work a whole year just to find a few characters, it's not going to be worth it, because we need to finish the project maybe in a year and a half.
It depends how much data we have. This is just a suggestion.
I think the only data you can ask Khayriya, but I think the only data about what Nabateans dressed comes from a painting in the Pharaohic era. They show a Nabatean person wearing a kaftan and so on. So, but you need to get in touch with Khayriya. It's a pity she's not with us, because she could have contributed to this. فإذا يعني هيدي شغلة الكاركترز. يعني مثلا ممكن نحن نحيي الثياتر بعد ما ينعمل له reconstruction. We can what we say is we can recontext. لكن بدي أقول شغلة, recontexting is not our role. يعني in this project, recontexting is part of the Lebanese role. يعني مش مطلوب منا بالمشروع. اوكي, فلذلك إذا حبينا نعمل شوية just a flavor, okay, but we cannot do for the whole thing. It's impossible.
Yes.
اوكي, ايش في كمان افكار؟
sorry, بس بالنسبة لموضوع الكاركترز, I think there are ways to model low poly characters, بس المهم يكون في عندنا references. انت حضرتك دكتور كنت بتحكي انه ما في عندنا كثير يعني references نرجع لها.
لا اظن دكتور نايف بأيدني انه there aren't many we don't know.
But they
يعني
are
اللبس.
عفوا نايف.
There is some references and there is some let us say models for the Nabateans, but they are limited and maybe like in Jarash and in Petra, they tried with some figures to put the
army, the soldiers.
Yes, the soldiers, yes.
But is it authentic?
We can, the issue is with Khayriya is better to answer this question because of the figurines. If wall painting is difficult, but from we can understand the everyday life from some figurines, from statues, and from maybe from some text. But there is, but it is limited.
نعم. Okay.
I would
think
like here Dr. Talal to I am little disappointed about the connection of the training. I wait to at least to discuss from the teams what about the connection between what they have seen today as a video and the international that I discussed. And it is very important to connect these issues. We have to discuss the issue here according to the standards about the international conventions and even at the two charters that I discussed with the team about London Charter and Civil Charter. What about, this is the beginning for me to discuss. It is not nice or why we have to put the standards according to the charters like Civil Charter because he wants to see the old and the new. These issues that
well, I think Nermeen is not probably qualified to get into this because it's not. معلش ما هو it's not her role. ولكن you are here to remind us of this, no problem. And
I
also you can.
Point, yani, what was the disappointment? Did you not like the lecture, or what was it exactly?
No, he's saying that when you talk reconstruction, you have to go back to the charters which tell you about the standards and traditions that you need to follow in reconstruction. This was not, you were only showing people how reconstruction was done in Baalbek.
Yes,
it was not your role to say something about how good the reconstruction is and how did it comply with the charters. Exactly. This is something that Naif is supposed to do.
Yes.
You can do it in the training, and you are doing it in the training.
I am doing in the training, but I mean, maybe the team that are followed this training have to think about this issue. Yani the discussion or the criteria should be related to these standards about these conventions, and they are new, like civil principles, the old, the new, the authenticity. These issues we should.
I think yes. I think this is.
But I will give an example in the training to show videos, and then how it is related or it is okay with the standards of these charters. This I will do it in my training. Maybe it's better to connect all these together, because reconstruction or the video should be made by a multidisciplinary team. And this multidisciplinary team from the beginning, as Nermeen emphasized, the content. The content is very important. Then I create a concept, and this is, there is a gap between the content and the concept. And the most important is the content from archaeologists according to these charters and maybe the standards, the international standards. That's what I would like to clarify.
Yes, I believe you are right. And this should be discussed in the training sessions with the teams that are participating. Exactly.
But maybe the team that there are some participants, I was waiting that they will discuss the issue from this standard. Or from the training.
Niveen حكت والله. Niveen she mentioned this. Niveen, go ahead. She discussed it. You don't have to be disappointed. Niveen.
أما هي دكتور عن جد أنت مش لازم تكون disappointed، لأنه إحنا بالجروب الروم 1 ناقشنا هذا الموضوع، حكينا إنه بعلبك كان فيها مشكلة والproblems about the reconstruction, how the old monument it's not released, and the charters, how we will put the spotlight about the old points and the new and the reconstruction. We talk about that in our room, right, Nermeen?
Yes. Niveen raised the issue, so she pays attention in your training sessions.
I say this related for our training with Dr. Naif, and then I say my comment on Baalbek reconstruction.
Okay.
Okay.
We can present it as a case, Baalbek case, according to what we have learned from the training and construction with the international standards.
Yes, we can do it. Thank you, Doctor.
Thank you.
دكتور طلال احنا مش سامعينك. You're trying to talk بس I think your microphone disconnected أو في إشي غلط. فعبين ما دكتور طلال يرجع. If there are any ideas, anything you guys want to discuss, talk about, please go ahead. Feel free. تامر مثلا
نرمين اصبري شوي بالله.
يلا
عم بسأل أنا، كان الميكروفون تاعي مسكر. بدي أعرف إحنا عنا هدف إنه نشتغل على 20 مونيمنت في البتراء. قديش فكرك دكتور بتاخذ إننا نعمل ريكونستراكشن لهدول المونيمنتس 20 واحد؟
يعني it depends. يعني each monument at least يعني 1 month at least.
يعني ما عندناش 20، يعني يلا ما عندنا 20 شهر أظن.
ما يعني we'll discuss this issue.
Okay. طيب. Now we go back. Anybody who has questions or ideas, please go ahead.
كان بدي أسأل تامر عن الريسورسز مثلا because he has experience in game development and creating such experiences and virtual reality experiences and so forth. If he can give his point of view مثلا for creating experiences مثلا that include 3D characters, interaction, animation and so forth. From your experience, what about the resources? عدد الteams, how much effort it would take, how much time to create هالأشياء مثلا.
It depends on the complexity of the characters and the modeling. If we're going for a very simple low poly modeling for characters, there are a lot of resources online. The issue is to have references of the actual clothing, skin colors, the traits of people that lived there, so that we can mimic the traits and have them to give a natural experience for people who are going to visit the virtual reality. So the technology is there. The challenge is how much we want to make it complex. We can go from simple 3D characters up to very realistic characters. It all, of course, depend on the performance that we want on different devices.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Again, I want to say we're not supposed to be doing recontext. ولكن there are two things that can be done. The first is that we encourage SMEs and persons to put together their efforts to create games that have this element, and the game can be as sophisticated as you want. For the project, when we talk, Narmeen, I, Naif, who are working on the project, they will be doing things, maybe they will give an example of how, I don't know. لأنه بالأول we need to do the recontexting, the reconstruction, and then we need to think, can we do something about recontexting as an example, not as the whole monuments that we are working on, or all of Petra, because that will bring us outside the scope of the project from our point of view. When it comes to Lebanon, they have to do it. It is required of them. Okay.
Tamam.
Okay, anybody else, or shall we close up? Okay, thank you very much. I think Tamer is taking notes about this, because all of this will appear in a publication about the living labs that we did. And for the time being, I want to thank you for being with us. Again, I ask you to encourage as many people to join us, especially, thank you, Giovanni, yes.
Thank you.
Especially from people who are involved directly in Petra. And thank you, عطوفتك عماد. Thank you, Giovanni. Allah يعافيك, تسلم. Thank you all for being with us.
يلا يعطيكم العافية.
Okay. يلا باي. تصبحوا خير. Good night.
Good night.
Yep.